Hey guys, my name is Wildkard and welcome back to my channel. Super Rugby AU Round 10, second game of the week. The New South Wales Waratahs took on the Victoria Rebels for the who's the biggest choker of the team, of the season game, right? And yep, the Waratahs, they took that title. They lost every game of the season. Despite firing their coach, they still weren't able to pull it together for a win. But the Tars did play much better in the last couple rounds than they did at the start of the season. And the attack, when Waratahs was attacking, the backline moves look really good. At least in the first half with their starting team. When the reserves came on, the attacks didn't look nearly as good. But there's definitely a big improvement for the Waratahs. And for the Rebels, they finally ended the choking streak by, emphatically beating the Waratahs today. Yes, Andrew Mertens. It's not that hard to work emphatic into your broadcast. And then the Rebels, yeah. What can I say? There was a lot of weird things that happened in this game. A little bit of weirdness that happened in this game. I think the Rebels came in. Their coach was looking at potentially getting fired for if they're gonna lose this game again. And the Waratahs already fired their coach. It's looking at really trying to prove that they're a team that can make something happen. Turns out the Rebels are just a little bit more polished in just about every aspect of the game. The Waratahs did look good when they were running the ball with the backline. Probably better than the Rebels' backline plays. The Waratahs looked more smoother. But the Waratahs forwards really needed to drill on those. Yeah, on the set pieces, on the scrums, on the lineouts. A lot of work to do for the Waratahs forwards. The backs, much better than the previous weeks. Anyway, so right from the get-go, something really weird happened, right? So this is like the Anzac Day week. So they had to play the national anthem for Australia and New Zealand before the game. And then the game starts, okay? The game starts. Waratahs were kicking off. The kicker had the ball in his hand. And the whole Waratah teams were lined up, right? Took a knee. Just before the kickoff was about to happen, the whole team took a knee. Like, I don't know if they're protesting for something. Maybe they're trying to make a statement about, I don't know, Aborigines in custody. Like, dying in police custody. Or something. I don't know. Nobody knows why. The whole team were on their knees. Okay, one knee on the ground. Just as their own kicker is about to kick the ball out. So the game, the referee blows the whistle. The kicker kicks the ball out. And all the Waratahs players kind of look like they're like, as someone trying to sprint up, like, in a sprint. In a sprint, someone's kind of like, sprinting off a pedal sort of thing. The whole team kind of like sprung up from the ground and start chasing the ball, right? Not sure what that is about, but that's what they did. The whole team sprung up, started sprinting down, chasing the ball. The Rebel, number 13, got the ball. I can't remember his name. Number 13 got the ball. And you figure that all this kneeling and all this spring start has to, like, there's probably, like, you're thinking, okay, there has to be a purpose for this. All right, like, why did they do this? Turns out there was no purpose, okay? Because the Rebels player who received the ball instantly made a break. And he just, like, carved through, like, the entire defense line, ran straight through, and did a little chip kick behind the back, and the Waratahs was, like, scrambling back for defense, and the Rebels turned the ball over again. Literally 30 seconds later, Rebels were right up to the Waratahs line. There was a ruck. Tamura got the ball out. Crossfield kick. Eli caught the ball on the opposite end of the field. dot the ball down, try time, less than a minute. I genuinely don't know why they took a knee as the ball is about to be kicked off. I honestly don't know if they're protesting for something or if that was like they're all thought they're sprinters about to like embark on a sprint and they just all like, you know, crouched down and getting ready to like sprung off the starting board. I don't know. I think they're protesting because obviously whatever they try to do, they didn't do that again for the rest of the game, and whatever there was, it just literally a disaster for the Waratahs, like absolute disaster. Okay, sure, like I don't like it's just I don't know what that was, but that was hugely unnecessary and backfired big time for the Tars. Right away, the Rebels on the board. Tamura makes a conversion, 7 points to 0. Okay, now you're like, oh god, this is like the Tars gonna get flogged again. Nah, that's not to be the case. A few minutes later, the Tars were just building pressure on Rebels. Two penalties awarded to the Tars back to back. Tars kicked both of them. 6 points to 7. Tars coming right back. Right. After Tar's second conversion, the Rebels started building pressure again. The Rebels had a scrum inside a Tar's half. And this is like, literally when I was in school, this is like the best move when you're a kid, okay? The ball is a scrum. The ball's at the back of the scrum. The number 8 picks up the ball and runs the blind side. We used to call this, this is a move. We used to call this burgers, right, in school, okay? And this is like the best move. When you're a kid, you just pick the ball up and you run at the halfback and you try to, like, you're big, you know, if you're number 8, you're big, and the halfback generally is smaller than you. So when you're a kid, you just try to run over the little kid that comes and trying to tackle you. And this is exactly what happened here, okay? Naisarami is like 125 kilos up against the Waratahs halfback who's like 80 kilos. He just like shrugged him off, just palmed him off and ran off the blind side completely open. And the fullbacks tried to come up to tackle the big fella. He did an offload to Wells, the number 6, and then the Rebels just struts in for the second try. 11 minutes in. And Tamura did not get this conversion. So the Rebels are up 15 points to... Okay, no, not 15. The Rebels are up 13 points to 6, okay? Yeah, that's just like... When I saw that move, I was like... I was actually laughing. That was brilliant. That was a really good move. Okay, and then Naisarami... Okay, he's been injured the whole season. Naisarami, he's big fella, number 8. And last week he came back as a sub. And this week he's starting for, I think, the first time since he came back from the injury, right? And a few minutes later, he put a high shot on I think it was on, I can't remember who it was, but it was definitely not on Swinton, Lockie Swinton. But Swinton came in and saw the high tackle, right? He kind of like pushed him off or something, pushing like, you know, Naisarani was like on top of the player. He kind of just like shoved him off his own teammate, right? Shoved Naisarani off his own teammate. And Naisarani gets up. They both just kind of like got into the face. And Naisarani just starts throwing punches. Oh, I honestly have not seen punches being thrown in a professional game. I can't remember last time I saw... Oh yeah, no. The last time I saw like a punch or like a player hitting another player was a few weeks ago in Super Rugby Aotearoa, actually. So, anyway. But it wasn't like this. It was like, oh, kind of like a beef. Like, oh, I kind of hit him. The actual, like... So, anyway. Actual, like, grabbing somebody and punching them. I have not seen that for, like, I don't know, like, years. I think last time I saw something that was, like, in Rugby League or something. But anyway, he started punching them. And Lockie Swinton, Okay, Lockie red card Swinton. I'm very proud of him actually. He didn't swim back. He just pushed him off. It looked like he tried to like do a slapback or something, but it didn't really hit him. But yeah, Lockie Swinton held back, didn't take the bait. The referee comes back, had a review, goes, okay, high tackle, and then followed up with the punches. There's nothing to say. Red card, off you go. I mean, the high tackle could have been like argued a little bit because it's like, okay, the guy's dropping and he's also like not, going high. So like it could potentially argue that the high tackle only a yellow card because Naisarani did drop his height. He's not like right up here and try to shoulder charge somebody. He's already low and he can't really go much lower than he was. I mean, he could potentially go a little bit lower, but he would be like basically diving for the legs to go any lower than that. So you could potentially argue that was a yellow card, not a red card. But him just like getting up, start punching Swinton in the face, that was bad. He'd probably get banned a few matches for that. I wouldn't be surprised. That was really, really poor form from him. And Lockie Swinton, very proud of you, mate. Didn't take the bait. Very smart. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. A round of applause for Lockie Swinton for that. That was I was genuinely like, if someone was punching me in the face like that, I would be very, very tempted to not punch him back. Like someone would have to be holding me back to not like swing back at someone. So swing back at like that sort of disgusting aggression against myself, right? So yeah, so Swinton was able to control himself, very good, and no cards for him. Waratahs had a one-man advantage from that point forward, and sadly the Tars weren't able to capitalize too much with their one-man advantage. They were able to get. Okay, so they were actually back and forward. It didn't really look like they had much of an advantage, despite having one person missing. The Tars were really struggling with their forwards. Like, there was a few lineouts just, like, not really going well. And when the Rebels had the lineout... Yeah, so when the Rebels had the lineout, the Tars, again, didn't look like they know how to deal with the rolling maul. So when the Rebels have the lineout, they do the rolling... They try to do a maul. Even if they're like really far away from the try line, the Rebels just go for the maul. And the Tars just like stood back and try to like get one person going to make a tackle to stop the maul. And the Rebels are just like expecting that already. As soon as the person comes in, they shift the ball around and then like they just keep going with the maul. And then like there's no tackle. Like they just you can tackle somebody and they just like peel the maul off and then they just keep going. So like they're like expecting that. So the Tars really have to work on that, how to stop them all. Like, just this worked like one time, I think, against the Brumbies, like literally once against the Brumbies a few weeks ago, and they tried to do that this whole game, and it was just like failing. Not only that, the fact that they didn't contest as soon as the ball came down means that the Rebels are already going forward. So even if you like set up make the tackle, they've already gained like 5 meters before the tackle actually occurs. So, like, the Rebel is still, like, getting an advantage out of this, even if you make the tackle and sack them all, essentially. Sack them all, like, legally. You still lost, like, plenty of distance beforehand. So, it wasn't, like, really, the strategy. It's not really a good strategy. And unless they sack it right away, which they're not doing, they kind of let the maul come down and start moving, and then they go in for the tackle. So, it wasn't amazing. But anyway... Whilst they were off the field, the Rebels actually got penalties against the Tars right away. So the Rebels were able to kick a penalty whilst they had a red card before Waratahs were on the pressure again and start putting on pressure and start trying to look like they're gonna make a play. The Tars backline move, like I mentioned in the start of the video, actually looked really, really good. They really have to shift the ball wide, but the Tars just didn't like. They probably, like Andrew Mertens was making a point, they're probably a bit too deep. So by the time the ball gets to the winger, like he was so far behind the vantage line. By the time he could get to the point where he's like gaining meters, the Rebels already swept around. So maybe it was a bit too deep. I am not really. I mean, obviously they try to give him space to to kind of like get the defense to split up so they can create gaps like in between the defense as they're pushing up. But it was probably a little bit too deep, according to Andrew Mertens. I am not, Andrew Mertens, former All Blacks legend, former All Blacks number 10, Crusaders number 10. I wouldn't be arguing with him. I mean, I would like to say that. I wouldn't argue with him. If he thinks that's the case, I wouldn't be like speaking against that. I'm not really as good as him, despite the fact that I would like to think that I am, but I'm not. Andrew Mertens is still better than me. Just a little bit though, slightly better than me. Anyway, so they were really struggling a bit, but one of the players, number 13, Parisi, actually played really, really well. Their number center. He just like he was really good at drawing players and then offloading like out of nowhere. So the first try the Tahs had was literally like they're shifting the ball. There was a few like offloads. Parisi got the ball eventually, and he literally like ran up and drew like 3 defenders. Like he drew all 3 defenders on the wing, and then offloaded to the try scorer Nawa Kanitawasi. Yes, I think I pronounced that correctly. Nawa Kanitawasi goes over for the first try for the Waratahs. Like sublime backline play from the Waratahs to score that first try. And the conversion was missed, which was a little bit of a shame. But Waratahs comes right back into the game. And then not long after that, Waratahs, led themselves again with giving away penalty. And Tamura converts another 3-point. That was like pretty bad, because that was basically the whole 20 minutes of the red card. Tahs had 1 try and Rebels had 2 conversions. So Tahs only getting 1 point in 20 minutes with Rebels 1 person down. So Rebels did really well defending, and the Tahs really struggled a little bit. But just before halftime, as the red card is expired, just as the red card expired, or maybe had a few seconds before it expired, one last play for the Tahs. It was Parisi, just bunch of like offloads. There was a bunch of offloads, and then eventually there was a big cutout pass all the way to the winger, which was Nawa Kanitawasi, who was on the wing. A big cutout pass to him. He runs down the wing. As he was getting tackled, he throws the ball back in. There was 3 Waratahs players inside supporting him, like great support lines. The first guy was, I think, might have been Swinton. He missed the ball. Second guy caught it was Maddox. Runs in, gets tackled. He rolls himself over, puts the ball down. Try time. Second try for the Waratahs, just before the Rebels were able to get their full team back on the field. So 20 minutes. Just at the end, they got the second try in for the Waratahs, and that conversion was good, and that was the last bit of play before halftime. Okay. Now at halftime, it's pretty close. Both teams has 2 tries. The Rebels were ahead by, by maybe 6 points. They were ahead by just penalties, basically. So the Tahs really wanted to just clean up the penalties in the second half to try to like get back into the game. Second half starts. The Rebels are the first one to hit back. So the Tahs kind of like drop off again a bit when they came out of the possession shed. And the Rebels came out firing, ready to go again. 2 minutes into the game, Rebels gets their 3rd try by Leota. And basically, Rebels were putting pressure on. And they had a penalty against the Tahs. They opted for a line out. They turned the line out into a maul. And there was the Rebels went forward, got really close to the try line. And there was a bunch of pick and drive. And eventually, they put the ball down just next to the goalpost. And then and because there was like a huge pile of people like piling on, the referee's like, I can see the ball being grounded. But I want to check if he knocked the ball on. And the video referee took him literally 5 minutes to figure this out. Like there was, all the camera angles were showing, like you can't see anything. It was like, you literally, like none of the angles were showing the grounding. And the referee's like, oh, I have an angle that shows there's knock on. And the referee's like, well, that's not what we see. We can't see anything. Can you show us the angle that you see there's a knock on? And the referee shows, instead of the guy scoring a try, the guy that was getting tackled before, like that was created the maul prior to the try, he kind of like had the ball ripped off of him as he was going to place it back. And the referee's like, oh, I saw that. That was knocked back. Try time. So a little bit of waste of time there. But yeah, it was just piling pressure from the Rebels. Try time. Third try for the Rebels. 42 minutes. 5 minutes later, at 47 minutes, 48, Tizano goes in for a try for the Waratahs. Okay? So the Waratahs literally did like the same thing, right? Literally did the same thing where they was it the Waratahs? Oh no, wait. So the Waratahs is actually so these two tries are very similar. Both of them were like mauls leading to from a line out leading to a try. But the Waratahs is the one that the referee had to look for 5 minutes. Okay? And then they eventually decided it was try. The Rebels try was that the Rebels try was basically a maul, and then it was actually a little bit different. Basically a maul, and the halfback did a fakie, so he faked that he was running away with the ball, and then everyone's kind of like looking at the halfback running. Well, and then the actual try scorer, Leota, peeled off with the ball from the back of the maul, and he just like struts through and scored a try. So that's the actual Rebel try. The Waratahs try is the one where they brought the line out in, and they crashed 3 times, scored under the post, and the referee had to check with the TMO, who looked at a different point of the set play to see if there was a knock on. So that was the Waratahs, and the Rebels had a maul where they peeled off and tried. So the Rebels strikes back. The Waratahs strikes back right after the Rebels scored. So the game is right up close again, very, very close again. And and then after that, the game like really settled down a bit. There was a lot of back and forward, and the Rebels the Waratahs looked really good in their attacks up to this point, about 60, 70 minutes in, and they started bringing on their reserves, and you can just see like the back line starting to like really lost that punching power, especially when Peresi got off the field. It's just like they were not going anywhere. If you were to look at the stats, the Waratahs literally ran the ball all day. 420 meters to 190. And they could not score for the most part. Like, it was just, I don't know. Maybe Andrew Mertens is right. Like, they were probably a bit too deep. But overall, the Waratahs really, really struggled up front. And the backline, the reserves came on, and they were just not going anywhere. They lost a lot of momentum when the reserves came on. So eventually the Rebels got on front foot. 65 minutes. Corin Betty made a big break, and they're like the Rebels looking like they're gonna score, putting a lot of pressure on. Eventually, there was a lot of pick and go. They got really close to the line, pick and go again, and the Rebels goes over. Gibson goes over for a try for the Rebels at 65 minute. And Tamura missed the conversion again, but the Rebels are now more than... It's now, how much is it? 14 points? 11 points ahead, yeah. 11 points ahead of the Waratahs, which means the Tars had to score 1 converted try and, basically 2 tries and at least 1 conversion from the 2 tries to win. But still got time, 65 minutes, still 15 minutes left. So the Waratahs are still in it to win the game. So Waratahs start fighting back, putting pressure on the Rebels. There's a bit back and forward again. And then eventually the Tars were able to really put the squeeze on and ping the Rebel down in their own half for quite a period of time. There was a lot of repeated penalty. The referee pulls the Rebel players over, told them to Tamura was out on his feet defending. He was just like on the ground kneeling. Then the referee come over, start talking to him. And Tamura realized that the referee's talking to him, he's quickly got up and he's like, yeah, sorry, so I wasn't like, yeah, I was just like out of it. He looked gassed. Like he looked like he got hurt or something, which is like on the, like crouched on the ground, like holding his chest like this. And then he was just like, yeah, one more and someone's going to go. So 75 minutes, James Hansen gets yellow carded for basically making a tackle, not rolling away, slowing the ball down against the Waratahs. Yellow card. 75 minutes, so 5 minutes left. Waratahs, like I said, 2 tries and a conversion behind. Still doable now that they had this 1 play advantage for the Tahs. So Tahs continued to put pressure on. 1 minute later, there was a high tackle, okay, by the Rebels player. I can't remember his name. I think it's a prop again. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Let me quick look. I think he's... Which one was it? Yeah, this one. Masili. I think he had a red card a few weeks ago. So yeah, anyway, he made another high tackle and shot. Literally, this is a lot worse. Actual like shoulder charge to the head. Red card. Off he goes. So now Waratahs has 4 minutes left, 2 tries and a conversion to win the game against 13 Rebels players. Okay? Now you're thinking, well, this is really doable. And no. The Tahs had all the reserves on. Just literally, what can I say? Not really up to Super Rugby levels. These are the reserves. I'm sorry, but if you're against 13 players, and not only that, you're against 13 players. There should be open space everywhere. There are so basically the Waratahs try to go for So anyway, Tahs went for another line out after this. Let's just continue with the game, and they had a maul which looked really good. They peeled off the side, and instead of the ball carrier breaking off, he peeled off the side with 2 players in front of him. Looking like, but the thing is, if you peel off in front of him, you can't detach from the maul. If you do a rolling maul, you can't detach. You have to get your players in front to keep themselves attached to the opposition players while you roll. But what they did was, they rolled and they just like detached and became like basically obstruction. They had 2 players in front of him going forward with no one like attached to them. And then the Rebels player just had to come in and try to make a tackle. And that was an obstruction. Because, you had 2 players in front of you. You've broken off the maul. No opposition players. It's like touching you anymore. So, someone just came in to tackle them. Obstruction. Despite the fact that he actually went over for a try. But it was obstruction. So, again, this is not really... this is almost like an amateur error. Like this sort of things, only you don't really see it that much in professional games. It doesn't. It's a pretty. If you play a forward, this is something that that you shouldn't. Like it's almost like, it's almost like knowing that you have to pass the ball backwards, right? Like if you're back, maybe you don't know the rules, but as a forward, to break off from a maul and having 2 players shielding for you in front of you. It's a pretty obvious obstruction, and it shouldn't be doing that. And it was just, I don't know, inexperience. Just need better training, better drills. And like I said, the Waratahs forwards really need a bit more practice in like these basic stuff. That really cost the Tahs, because that was the last chance the Tahs had to really score a try before they ran out of time to score the second try. And and then basically the game carried on. Tahs were not able to break. There was a knock-on for the Rebels. So there was a scrum, like in the last play, basically like time's up. So there was a Waratahs feed. So they still have time to probably score a consolation try. And Rebels, having 7 people in the scrum, won the tied head. And that was full-on penalty against the Tahs. Rebels finally clutched the win. Not a clutch win. The Rebels actually emphatically, Andrew Mertens, emphatically won that game towards the end. Despite having 2 people in the bin, 15 players against 13, the Waratahs were not able to score points. That was, it's just basic stuff as well. Like the Waratahs backline, the reserve backline, really weren't going anywhere. They were like losing distance when they were on the field, when they tried to run the ball. The Waratahs forward, like I said, making little amateur mistakes. They really need to improve a lot of these things if going in against the New Zealand teams in a few weeks. Trans-Tasman competition starts. The Super Rugby AU versus Super Rugby Aotearoa. And with the performance from the Waratahs, especially in the second half, they're going to get slaughtered. Yeah, they're going to get slaughtered. That's really not up to, really behind in professional, like a big gap between the Waratahs and where the rest of the Super Rugby teams are performing at. Even Western Force they started kind of like similar to where Waratahs are, and really improved and put themselves up there, and they made themselves into the elimination rounds, into the semifinals. Whereas the Waratahs really hasn't moved too much. They've got better, but really hasn't moved much like the rest of the team. The New Zealand competition as well, a lot of the teams like the Chiefs, the Hurricanes, especially the Chiefs, have improved tremendously over the season. And, the gap between the Crusaders and the rest of the New Zealand pack was like huge at the start. And now it's like very close. And there's a chance that if the Crusaders lose tomorrow against the Blues, that the Chiefs might actually go up number 1 out of the New Zealand competition. So it's very close. And whereas the Waratahs is quite a bit behind. So, Australian rugby needs to really improve on that. The forwards, you just have to drill them. Just basically drills. Get scrum training, line-out training, maul training, like how to deal with the maul. Like the fact that they don't contest the maul and try to get someone to tackle the maul, like after their opposition's already set and moving the maul. It's not really the ideal way to deal with that. Especially when the Rebels literally just like, we knew you're going to tackle us. As soon as you touch us, we're just going to send the ball back. Even if you make the tackle, we're going to continue with the maul and not concede a penalty. Not letting you sack the maul. We're going to keep it going anyway. So, there was a few failed attempts at sacking the maul. Tackling the maul, not sacking. Sacking is technically a penalty. Like tackling the maul before the maul is set. It didn't really work. So the Waratahs, whoever is their forward coach, really needs to look at these things. This is not really professional strategies, like getting someone to tackle them more after they're already taken 5 meters out of your advantage over the line to gain 5 meters over the advantage line. Not really a good strategy. I mean, uncontested the more is not unseen before, but usually you go uncontested and you instantly try to sack it instead of letting them set up and then start moving forward and then try to sack it. It's just, I think whoever's their forward coach needs to really put a bit more effort into their training. But anyway, guys, that's the end of Super Rugby rounds. Quarterfinal next week, semi-final next week, finals the week after. And then is Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. And tomorrow we got a big game coming up. Super Rugby Aotearoa Crusaders versus the Blues at home. Top 2 team, not top 2 anymore. Blues third. But if Blues beats the Crusaders, they could rocket themselves back into second place. Maybe not second place, but close to second place. So this is a really important game for the Blues. If they lose, they're basically out. If they win, then next week they have the chance to get themselves into the finals by beating the Chiefs. If they lose, then the Chiefs is through to the finals to play the Crusaders in Christchurch. Oh, not Christchurch, but yeah, in Christchurch. Yes, correct. So yeah, interesting stuff coming up. Anyway, guys, I've been talking for too long. Thanks for watching this video, and see you guys tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.